I have the honor and delight to introduce you to what I call the next generation, Christine Pelosi and Bella. We all know Christine from her stroller days, and we know her as Nancy Pelosi's daughter, but I just saw her resume, and it was, well, it's too long to go through. She in her own right has done many amazing things, and I'm sure you all know about her boot camp. Arianna Huffington praised her campaign boot camp as a passionate call to public service and a practical guide for making that service more productive. Christine, and here's another comment. Christine Pelosi is a sharp and knowledgeable drill sergeant looking to whip our democratic process back into shape. So I'm going to move on to the award for today, which is actually for her mother, and she's going to receive this award. How many of you are familiar with the Star Wars trilogy and Princess Leia? Right. Well, I did a little research on this because we had offered this award to Leader Pelosi before, knowing of her years working inside the Death Star. But what I found out was that Princess Leia from the planet Alderaan was the most significant protagonist in that trilogy because she was the one that managed to get a hold of the plans for the Death Star. So she knew how the whole thing operated. She had the blueprints for the Jedi Knights to go in and conquer it. So who better to receive a Princess Leia award than Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, who knows more about Congress than anybody. And of course, one of the problems we have in this country is that Americans don't really understand Congress. They don't understand that process, which is why we hear so many comments about it. But Nancy Pelosi is our planet's Princess Leia. And so we have a special award for her. We think what she needs is not a Princess Leia dress or doll, which we thought of. She needs a weapon. So Christine, if you would, please. Oh, you can open it.
Bella. This is her cue. Open this present for me. While she's unwrapping it, I'll just say I was getting my contract for a boot camp I was doing, and the lawyers added something that indemnified me in case somebody died in my boot camp. I said, I'm not that bad. Not that scary. What do you have? What do we have, Bella? Oh my gosh, and something's coming and it's making noise. Oh my. Alright, let's hold that up so that you can say thank you from Mimi. What do you say?
All we have to say to Leader Pelosi is, may the force be with you in 2014.
Well, the speech isn't going to be as good as that, but what can I say except help me, Women's Internet Cultural Network, you're my only hope. Help me, Women's International Network, you're my only hope. No, we are our only hope. This morning, before we came here, we were at the Peace in the Park festival, where it was, I think, karmically appropriate to be standing near the intersection of Nancy Pelosi Drive, JFK Drive, and MLK Drive on this Women's Equality Week, on this anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington Week, and to talk to them about what my mom wanted me to talk to you about this afternoon, which is advancing the dream and what we need to do to realize the dream in our own communities. Now, what she said on the mall, if any of you were watching C-SPAN before you came over here to start the day, was that she was in Washington 50 years ago, as they were preparing for the March on Washington. And so she turned to the audience and said, who among you is going to be a future Speaker of the House, a future President of the United States? And when you think about the work that you do, whether you're talking about some of the youngest and newest arrivals to our country that Harriet Ishimoto of the district office has been reuniting and bringing together and joining into the American family for over 20 years. Let's all thank Harriet for her amazing. Or whether you're talking about the most vulnerable arrivals who are coming under involuntary circumstances today, just as African Americans did on slave ships over 200 years ago. We, as Martin Luther King said, are bound together in a common garment of destiny. And if you think about the suffragette movement itself, which we're celebrating today, that was born of the abolitionist movement, both of those movements were a part of healing the original sin in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence. I'm sure if Jane Morrison was around then, they wouldn't be talking about all men being free and equal. Right, Jane Morrison? And so when we think about what our challenge is today, when we think about the fact that 50 years ago, in the same year that Martin Luther King declared that he had a dream, John F. Kennedy signed what we thought then was going to be the Fair Pay Act. We thought, well, this will be indexed and we'll be set. But we weren't. At the time, there was a march for a moral wage, a living wage of $2 an hour. Now, it's hard to believe that all those years and all that inflation, all those cost of living expansions later, we're begging for a raise to $10 an hour. So we have to talk in the same terms as the abolitionists, as the suffragists, and our Joshua generation, and saying, as the young woman described of Alice Paul, we take from the traditions of others, we take from the nonviolence of Gandhi, we take from the past, we learn our histories, we need to know our histories in order to understand the sisters on whose shoulders we all stand, the people who sacrificed, the people who were imprisoned, the people who sacrificed knowing that they were sending a message to a future that they were never going to see. But they had the faith and the confidence that one day America would live up to her creed. So as we go forward now, there are three things that we need to do as a community here in San Francisco. The first and most immediate thing that we need to do is to keep expanding the circle so that more and more young women understand what is at stake and how much we need them in this room and in this fight. And I know Emily and others are encouraging that next generation of leaders to come forward, and it's incredibly important that we do that. The second thing that we need to do is we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform. It absolutely has to happen. Because if we don't look at these dreamers as our brothers and our sisters, as our children, then we are failing ourselves as a country. So this is a real test for us. What kind of Americans are we? What kind of an America are we? Are we willing to have the generosity of spirit to embrace others as we were embraced by the country, or as we wish we had been embraced by the country when our foremothers and our forefathers came? And the third thing that we absolutely have to do is to advance this agenda for women and girls, to free our young sisters and brothers from sexual slavery, to bring people into that beloved community. And in order to do that, the House Democrats, on behalf of whom Bella accepted the lightsaber, 62 strong and growing and expanding, want to make sure that we are passing the Women Succeed initiative. And that initiative states that not only are we advancing fair pay, raising the minimum wage to a moral wage, but also that we have quality child care. Quality child care. And in California in particular, as we were just discussing before it came on, that also means passing a domestic workers' bill of rights to take care of the people who take care of us. And that we make sure that we are constantly on alert when it comes to our voting rights. Now, you've seen what's happened across the country. We're one of the few places we're actually expanding voting rights. But even here in San Francisco, we have precinct places that are not accessible to people with disabilities. Even here in San Francisco, we will have a different set of precincts this November than we had last November in certain circumstances because it's quote unquote only a municipal election. So even here, right here in our communities, we need to make sure that our precincts are accessible, that our ballots are accessible and counted as cast, and that every person in the community has a reason to vote for something, feels that he or she is fully enfranchised in the community. So on behalf of Bella, okay, thank you, baby. On behalf of Bella, I don't think I'm gonna get that out of her hands. And my mom and all of the women who are fighting this fight, thank you so much for what you are doing. What happens in San Francisco is really a model for the rest of the country. We have shown that in the work that we have done and the holistic approach to combating domestic violence, which became the continuum of care. We saw this in fighting the AIDS pandemic, which became a national model for how we treat people with all illnesses. And also the innovation to change a diagnosis into a condition that can be managed with care. And we've seen this in the fight for equal rights. So as we go forward, advance the agenda, and remember, you have a tremendous friend in Washington, D.C. And with your help and a few more tremendous friends around her, we'll be able to make sure that the People's House is once again in the hands of someone who truly cares about the people. Thank you all.